I'm starting the live stream.
Yeah,
Super.
let's do anyway. Clement, we see the YouTube, not the PowerPoint. Clement, we see the YouTube, not the PowerPoint.
I see the PowerPoint.
Yeah, that was the YouTube
Yeah.
recording. It was my playback.
So the Q&A button is not going to be available?
No, we will just have to chat.
Okay, so I'll have that. I'll mention that in the intro.
Thanks.
We should really emphasize in the SharePoint about the difference between sending out a meeting invite and a webinar invite. Welcome everyone to Train the Trainer Virtual Live Events webinar. Next slide, please. Throughout this webinar for the next hour or so, we'll be taking you through a webinar timeline, the decision time, the before, the opening, during, ending, and the after. Your presenters today are going to be, next slide, Clement, is Clement Gauthier, Indranil N, Nitesh Setia, Gavin McDougall, that's me, and Okia Schwartzes. And the topics that we're going to be breaking down in detail, as we're all subject matter experts on these, is deciding the format, setting it all up, preparation and marketing journey, which I'm sure you all agree with me is the most important part. The tips and tricks during the event, the use of videos, which are important for adding extra engagement, making it interactive, which is key for keeping the interest level up throughout the webinar, and some analytics review and the importance of the data that you're going to garner out of all the efforts that you're going to put into your webinar. So welcome, thank you all for attending, and let's kick it off because this is going to be an action-packed, information-packed 1 hour. I'm going to throw it to Clement on deciding the format.
Hi everyone. So as Gavin said, this is the most important part of the presentation. Let me turn on my my video. I can't click slides anymore. Right, that's good. So what we say, generally speaking, is that you need for good large scale or high profile webinar, you need something like a month of preparation. And the first thing you need to have in mind when you start this exercise is getting a clear review on what you want to get, where it's going to happen, what's the overall layout, and some of the questions you want to answer pretty fast are related to hardware and infrastructure. So do you have internet connection, good internet connection where you want to have speakers? Do you want physical backdrops? Do you want people to be in an auditorium, or do you want it to be in a greenhouse? All these sort of different scenarios that you need to have control of and think about backup plans when things fail, because things fail from time to time. I've marked as a bullet point here on the left side about audio and video. So this is also a catch on hardware, but the light is also very, very important. So a good webcam is doing magic. A camera crew is doing absolute magic. And do you want to go for virtual backgrounds as I'm doing now? It can be okay for some scenarios. I recommend physical backgrounds by all means. So we try to describe a bit the different tools you have in terms of live meetings. So essentially running around Zoom, and we're going to describe in this 1 hour 4 different modes that you can use. So there's the standard Zoom meeting, which we're doing today, and that you're probably all used to it. So what Zoom meetings are good at is very interactive sessions. This is good for small groups, but up to 300 and 1,000 we can scale, but that's really probably not a good idea unless you are very comfortable with your audience and you know they are going to well behave, not necessarily show their video and stuff like that. So this is the interactive format. This is the most interactive format you can have. It doesn't match all situations. When you go to your customers and you want to speak to larger groups, you can't expect everyone to behave. Maybe you've socialized the events on social media and stuff like that. Your way to go is Zoom webinar, because you have a one or few too many presentation with all the whistles and bells it can bring. An evolution of the two first ones is live streaming on YouTube using Zoom. So that's what we're doing today. We'll show you more later on. So that's nice. YouTube is one of the platform we can live stream on. Out of the box, Zoom can do YouTube, it can do Facebook, but it can also do customized live stream platform. It just needs to be compatible with LTMP. That's a bit technical, but we can help you with that. And what we're going to demo you as well today is how you can bundle all that into a Syngenta landing page. So you can add other elements to that page and have all of that Syngenta branded or maybe product branded if that's about a product launch. I've said it all on the first slide, so I don't much things to say on this slide. So I'll reinforce the message. Zoom is interactive. Zoom meetings are interactive. Don't share your Zoom meeting link on social media. This is calling for a disaster. The next format is webinar. So if you want to publicize that on social media, that's the format to go. Zoom webinar, we already pay for it in Syngenta, so IT pays for it. So there's no additional cost unless you want insane capacity, so above 500. But we also have such licenses, and we can bypass that problem live streaming to YouTube, for instance. And then speaking about YouTube's or Facebook or another customized live streaming platform, Zoom can do it out of the box. We can support you setting this up. This is one of the important points of this presentation, I guess. And then we can bundle all that into a Syngenta landing page. Nitesh is going to describe that more in details, but we can have different elements. So number one is the live stream. We can have some forms or Q&As or quiz type of stuff embedded. We can have a Salesforce.com form. We can have all sorts of things. It's as flexible as a Syngenta web page can be. We've come up with a small decision tree to help you making the decision. If you're not sure, just contact me, myself or Diego, my colleague that you might know if you're based in Switzerland or if you heard that name in previous trainings. We're happy to help. So that's me. Basically happy to help. If you have questions about Zoom, live streaming on social media, I can help you. Organizing live events as well. This said, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Nitesh. Or not. So one of the important events of virtual events is that it has a beginning and an end, as silly as it sounds. So the preparation, unlike what Gavin would say, is probably the most important things. So it's important to have a formal project management crew organized around your event. You need an event owner, you need technical people, you need communication people, you need marketing people, everybody that you need. You may need facility management type of roles and that sort of things. So as I earlier said, a month before the event, you really need to concentrate on the overall flow of your event, on infrastructure and hardware type of things. 2 weeks before, you should have a draft of the flow end to end of your event. You know who's going to speak when and where, and what they are going to speak about. You have clarified all infrastructure elements, or at least the most important of them. And the few weeks before the event, you just do fine tunings. 1 week before the event, this is army type of organization. You have everything described. You know who's going to press a button when. You have a clear view on all transitions that you expect to happen in your live events. So there's no black moment or things that, just like I've just said, where I'm handing over to myself instead of my colleague. So that should have been better prepared. It's very important to do a number of tests, and so we call one of them dry run. So it's when you have all the whole of your flow very well described, and you go through it step by step, and everybody who's gone an action during the event is attending this dry run. It's like you playing, you acting in a play. And 30 minutes before, every doer in the event is already in the call, making sure all the technical bits and pieces are in order, and everyone is there, and there's no challenge, or if there are challenge, we can action a plan B. So we've come up with a very short checklist. So my colleague Diego would laugh at that one, as we're also preparing some company-wide event currently, and this one looks ridiculously short, but it's just here for guidance. What you want is no doubt for anyone involved in the live event what their role is, and one of the key principles we follow is one job, one man, one job. Nobody's doing two things at the same time. And this being said, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Nitesh, who's going to speak to you about landing pages.
Thank you, Clement, for giving us a quick overview about what are the different options which are available with Zoom. Now, we'll look into the last option for the Zoom, which is creating the landing pages. So in order to create those landing pages, so these are Syngenta landing pages. So let's quickly see what are the different options which are available. So if we see this landing page, we've seen in the previous slides, the first one is basically the YouTube integration, which is a live YouTube link. Then followed by, you have a Mentimeter, which is more for a Q&A. You can ask questions on the landing pages itself. Now followed by the salesforce.com form. Now, one thing that that everyone would notice on the top is there's a live option coming up on the top of this webinar. So where we say that it's live on YouTube. So once it is live, we could work on creating those landing pages. That should be done. This is a prerequisite before we work on creating, before the webinar starts. Can you go next, Clement? Now let's see the different components which are available on the Drupal platform that can be reused. And it's not subjected to only these components. You have a lot of flexibility around the web components. So a quick look of different things which are there. So you could have a page which can look something like this, followed by the different components that we have seen in the initial half. These are just quick overviews. A few slides which says that these are the different designs, these are different landing pages that can be created. And these can be customized according to the requirement or according to the event that we have. Having said that, can you go next, please? So now about the landing page creation, this needs to be hosted on the Syngenta country site. And there are around 80 plus web components which are there on the Drupal platform, which can be reused in order to create those type of landing pages. Now, how to create these landing pages is, the first thing is to check for who is the site owner of the website. So here we have provided the link of the site owners, site inventory. And if in case you need any support, Drupal team is always there to support. You could raise a ServiceNow ticket and the Drupal team will be very happy to help you out with these things. Having said that, that's my contact. So in case if you want to set up the landing pages, you have an option to either contact me directly or raise a ServiceNow ticket or talk to any of the Drupal team members. I'll pass it on to Gavin.
Yeah, hi. We're going to take you quickly through the preparation and marketing journey. The components that go into this, I know we've been taking you through all the stages of hosting one of these major events from the technical aspects. That's what Clement was going through. And the example that we're using right now is a fully fledged like new product introduction webinar with all the bells and whistles. And so that's what I'm going to focus on what the marketing journey should be as well, simply because you should consider all the options depending on the scale of what your webinar is. But even if you're having a small meeting, like a small setting up with a bunch of retailers going through a new preparation or something like that, ostensibly it is the same. It is the same thing. You're taking someone, you're inviting them to the event. You're reminding them of the event. The day of the event, you're sending out one more click to join, and then you're following up afterwards and then whatever feedback you get on from that meeting, you act on. It's the exact same in regardless of the scale, but for a major webinar that you're hosting, that could have up to thousands, that's happening in 7 countries. All the preparation you have to do has to start weeks ahead, and the options you have to consider are considerable. Now, I think I really want to emphasize the importance of this whole marketing piece, because not only do I think it's really important, but also webinar is an incredibly impactful marketing tool. They are incredibly powerful just simply because of this. The people you are inviting are obviously interested in the subject matter. That makes them marketing qualified leads. They have an interest. They are taking the time out of their day to tune in and watch your presentation. All the careful preparation that you go into this and putting on a good show, which is what you're doing ostensibly, is to convince them that they should really try the product or service that you're offering. And that turns them into sales qualified leads. And there are killer stats that come out of webinars as a marketing tool. All in attendance are marketing qualified leads, but up to 40% of them who participate become sales qualified leads after the presentation. This is fantastic information for your sales and commercial teams. And it also informs the content marketing strategy, because this 40%, well, the entire audience you're presenting to, they are looking for more information. And so this informs your content marketing opportunities going forward. So the 3 main goals of your webinar, hosting this webinar and going through all these stages: the event promotion strategy, the asset creation, the event lead up, the events, the after event process, and then the reporting and the outputs. Obviously, the beginning part is to maximize the attendance and impact of the webinar by making sure you're inviting the right people. You have to make sure your lists are accurate, and you have to coordinate with your commercial teams to make sure you're inviting the right people. The outputs that you want, beyond putting on a really good show, is to generate these qualified leads from the webinar attendees. And then the outputs you want is to convert these sales qualified leads into customers and provide them with aligned marketing campaigns. So that's a super killer marketing tool. These people are tuning in because they want the information. A lot of them are going to come out wanting to become customers. And so don't waste this opportunity. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm just going to go through quickly the promotional journey. I'm going to just start with the main invite channels. It is a traditional email invite history when it comes to webinars, when it comes to small and large, because we have these internal email lists. These stats are useful for letting you know when to send and what the best time to hold a webinar is. There's also a consideration for SMS. SMS is a very powerful weapon in your marketing quiver, simply because the open rates are way higher than they are for email. And it turns out that people like to interact with brands via SMS. They don't mind getting emails, but they actually like getting SMS messages. So next slide, please, Clement. Okay, so for your journey, beyond the email and the SMS, those are going out to people you know. You probably, depending on whatever the product is, you want to open those up to a larger audience. And using the tools that are actually in your toolbox already, in most business units toolbox, using Marketing Cloud, using Journey Builders, using Email Studio and Web Studio, you can create digital assets to take them through a very complicated, epic marketing journey, a really nice nurturing journey that starts with email, goes to a landing page, and the outputs can get into Salesforce. But beyond that, you can tie in social media using Hootsuite as a powerful marketing automation channel. You can push notifications out to really targeted audiences in Twitter and Facebook. Using LinkedIn, you can super segment when it comes to who gets to see those posts. Those are also great opportunities. But the outputs is what you really want. This is getting people, the right people, to attend because they're interested in whatever you're promoting. And then the output data, getting that into a usable data set that can be used in Salesforce or some other tool to take those, what are now 40% sales qualified leads, and convert them into customers. So use all this hard work. Well, obviously, all this hard work is going to be very beneficial for your business simply because it's a powerful marketing tool. Just make sure you don't leave anything lying on the table. And next slide. And this is a just a little promotional slide for my team. We're a marketing automation design team. We will help you with the back-end journeys and best practices when it comes to helping you out with your marketing using Marketing Cloud. We can also help you out with Hootsuite and other channels as well. So now I'm going to throw it on to Okia, who's going to talk about the tips and tricks of hosting an event.
Great. Thank you very much, Gavin. All right. So thanks. So yes, over the next couple of minutes, I will talk to you about what kind of things to keep in mind when you're holding an event itself. So you've done all your preparation work, you've invited all your attendees, you've got them onto the call. Now what? So each event is built up out of different sections. So as we already said at the beginning, it has an opening, a middle, and an ending. And so for each area, there's different things to keep in mind. And I'm aware that over the next couple of minutes, I'll throw out a lot of different tips to you, which probably might be too much for you to remember. But something that Clement likes to say is always like, start small. Don't feel like you have to implement everything all at once. Keep it simple. Work with something that you're comfortable with and move from there and build on your success as you go on. Don't feel like you have to reach for the star and moons with your first public event or virtual event. So if we look at an opening session, if you were one of the people who joined this session, maybe like slightly early or up to, I think we started about 2 minutes after the starting time of the presentation or of the meeting invite. So we opened the event with a holding slide. In this case, it was a video where we gave instructions on like, if, there was music on the holding slide. So if it helped people to get settled in, so they could see on the slide, like, okay, this webinar will start in a few minutes. I haven't missed anything yet. I see that there's a slide in front of me where it tells me that it's about to start. I hear the music. If I don't hear the music, it will give me on the video, it gives me the instructions on how to join the audio or how to get started. So this helps people just to get settled in, get grounded, know for sure that they're like, that they don't have any audio connections. They know they have to type in the chat, like, I can't hear anything, or get scared or anxious about that something is maybe already happening and that they've missed it. They just know like, okay, we're getting settled in. Then at the beginning of the session, explain the event setting. So this could also be helpful for people to know whether they are being recorded, whether their webcams are being recorded, if they can talk, or if they have any questions, what should they do? Should they use the chat box, or is there a Q&A button, or how will that work? And also present a clear webinar flow. And as you can tell, maybe throughout this presentation, we kept coming back to that same structure. Like we might not necessarily have shown every time like what are the different chapters, but this is deliberately done to help people who maybe missed your introduction or missed the agenda, so that they know like, okay, I'm here, I've maybe I joined 5 minutes or 10 minutes late, but I can already tell on these slides like what has been presented in the past and what will be presented going forward. So even though you might feel like, okay, it's a bit of a repetition to see that same slide over and over again, it will really help your audience. And remember, your audience might not have been able there to join from the moment you started till the moment you close, but they will still know what's going on. So then during the event itself, there's other tips we can give you, like break the dynamic. This means use different speakers, or if you have maybe just 2 speakers, alternate between them. Maybe even have a conversation with each other, which helps you to give a little bit of perspective and yeah, rather than just being a monologue going only one way, you can have more of a dynamic to it. Know your audience. This could mean by either doing upfront research into when people register, that you already ask them some questions so that you know maybe what their company size is or what their product is that they're growing, or where they're from, so that you can tailor your content of your audience, of your webinar or event to your actual audience. But you could also do this during the event by maybe having some polls in there, asking some questions, asking people to answer some questions on the chat to tell more about themselves. And this, you can then also give examples that really relate to them. Make sure to deliver your information in bite-sized portions, so don't drag on half an hour about the same topic, because we will likely lose people's interest. So keep it short, keep it concise. Yeah, it's not the same. Don't think that you have to, if you have a face-to-face event that you normally give live, maybe as a 2-day workshop, don't feel that you have to take that exact concept and move it virtually, but then actually consider, because I don't know, maybe if you're nowadays also having to spend lots of hours on Zoom, yeah, you notice that it's much more tiring to spend a whole day staring at a screen rather than when you're in a workshop, yeah, spending a whole day there. So maybe then consider to, rather than having a full day session, maybe you can break it up into 2-hour time slots and make it shorter. Use minimalistic slides. This can help you to keep your audience engaged to you and the story that you're telling, rather than that they're just focusing on reading your slide and forget that you're actually talking to them. Use visual variety. So this could be using different colors or different like pictures on your slides, so that it's not monotonous, so that people already are aware like what is the next section, or no, what's the next slide that will come up. If it's every slide looks the same, there's not much excitement in that. And the other thing is constantly re-engage your audience. So ideally, if you're doing an online event, at one point I've learned from an agency that's focused on e-learning, every 3 to 5 minutes, you want to engage your audience, ask them a question, make them do something, to avoid people go away and check their emails, or I don't know, read the news, and yeah, you would lose them. So you've delivered your presentation. So how do you close your presentation? So if we go to the next slide, so about that ending. So throughout the event, you can collect questions. So you can, there's different ways to doing that. If you're on a Zoom meeting like we're now, you can use the chat box for that. If you're on a webinar, there's a Q&A box. If you're deciding to stream your session via YouTube or Facebook, you can use the chat, or if you're on the landing page, we can use Mentimeter, which we'll show you later how that works. So how you can use that to collect questions. Make sure that when you're answering those questions, either after each section or at a dedicated timing at the end of it, really facilitate the question. So don't just say like, oh yes, that's right. Yes, you can do that. That's possible. If that's just the last question that were asked in the chat. But actually read out the question, because likely your audience won't be looking at the same thing or reading the same question as you are. So really then read out saying like, oh, actually Gavin just asked us about this and this, and the answer is yes, that's possible. And then finish with a call to action. So what is it really that you want your audience to do after they leave the session? Is that maybe to leave their contact information so that your sales team can answer, follow up with them? Is that for them to fill out a feedback form? so that you can get more information and improve for next time. What is it that you want people to take away from it? Maybe you want to direct their attention to a website where they can find lots more information. So really make sure that there's a proper ending to all that. So what to do after the event is over. And actually one of the beauties of doing an event virtual over doing an event live is with a live event, you're asking people to be on a particular date, at a particular time, at a particular location. If they're not available that date or that time, or they can't make it to that particular location, they will miss out on the opportunity to actually see your event. Whereas with a virtual live event, you actually have the opportunity to record your event and get much more exposure out of your event after your event has been held. So you can even grow your audience size or triple your audience size in the moments after. So how can we do that? So one of the things is that we have recording available that you make available on a site. And as Gavin can tell you, that's very good for any website because it's high rich or media rich content that will actually can help drive traffic to your site. So it can improve your SEO rankings as well as drive traffic. So that's a double win for us. But yeah, so other things to keep in mind after your webinar or after your event is over is that like follow up with any unanswered questions. If you made any promises during the call, like sharing a deck or something, you can send out a thank you email afterwards where you can maybe also link to the recording so that people can rewatch any parts that they may have missed or want to revisit. If you're using the Syngenta landing page option where you have a form, you can link that to your Salesforce to make sure that you can measure also your efficiency of your or effectiveness of your session by tracking the attendees and the number of leads that came out of that. And Indra and Neil will also share more about the analytics that you can get from all doing these events and how you can measure your effectiveness of that. But before we dive into that, let's have a look at videos, because that's a section that a lot of people, or we often get a lot of requests about, like how can we use videos in Zoom. So for Zoom, there are some restrictions that we have to keep in mind. So for videos, maximum 480 pixels. I would say keep the videos short. Like if you want to share long videos during a presentation, you might be better off considering sending them out as a pre-watch, or you can also on a landing page, you can link them as a separate section below. It's always advised to play the videos locally, so that meaning that you've already have downloaded the video and you play it, it's stored on your computer and you play it directly from your computer. And we'll show you in a minute a demo on why that is. Reboot your computer 1 hour before presenting. It's not only recommended for playing videos in particular, but also even like for any presenter. And I can tell you out of experience, I've had it last week that right after I had started a session with 50 people, literally like 1 minute into my call, I got a message on my computer that says your computer will reboot in 15 minutes, and it's like a forced reboot, so you cannot delay it. So I had to quickly, while my colleague was was on the presentation giving his part of the presentation, I had to quickly reboot my computer, go back into the call, and hope that nobody missed me or that nobody realized that I was missing during that presentation. During the presenting, so that's again also like it's just a general tip. During presenting, make sure you delete or close all programs that don't need to run in the background, which will help you for videos to free up your computer memory space or your graphic card so that it will run more smoother. But also it will help you with any unwanted pop-ups that may appear while you are presenting on your screen. Within Zoom, if you really want to make sure that you have the best quality, you can consider to temporarily stop your webcam. And also when you share your screen, you always have the option to share a particular application, but you can also share your screen in general. And for video sharing, it's better to share the full screen. And when you share your screen, you have the option to select share computer sound. This will help you to directly share the sound of the video that's on your computer so that they will have a smooth prompt. So we'll now demo you an example of how to show a video, and we'll show you the difference between first a video that's locally run and then a video that's streamed from YouTube. So let's see if we can easily see the difference.
A gente produz alimento, tem que ser persistente. A pessoa tem que trabalhar correto e tem que fazer bem feito. Que é uma coisa que eu não imaginava, virar modelo de negócio.
Diego,
Eu sou
could you stop
José
that
Ferreira
sound?
Pinto, mas todo mundo me conhece por Negro. Tem uns 15 anos.
Thank you. So as you could tell at the beginning of the video, also where they were milking the cow, you can see that it was a smooth flow. You could really see the movement of the hands as they were milking the cow. So this is a video that we have already embedded in the presentation, so it sits locally on the computer itself, and it plays directly from the beginning. The sound never is a problem whenever you share computer sound, and this looks like how it should be. If we're now moving over to a video, the same video, but like that's embedded from directly from YouTube. So if we go over to the next slide, then you can see like it first needed to load it, and it's a little bit more hockey, a little bit more choppy in it, and this is because Diego, if you can stop the sound again. Perfect, thank you. So yeah, so you can see that like now at this moment, the computer needs to download the bytes from the video while uploading them at the same time for the stream. So you're actually asking it to do double work. Whereas if you've already have the video local, you don't have to download that data because it already sits locally. So I hope that made it clear. So if we then move over to making it interactive. So as we said before, when you are streaming a video, when you choose to stream a live event on YouTube, you basically strip it from the Zoom functionality that you have to make an event interactive. The way that we can do that, add that interactivity is that when we embed the YouTube live stream onto a Syngenta landing page, we can actually use Mentimeter or a different tool, but we in general use Mentimeter for this, to add interactivity to it. So if we go over to the next slide, if I can ask you to all to go to the link, and I think I can post it quickly. No, I'll post it quickly again. But yeah, if you go to this, oh no, sorry, that's the wrong link. Well, the link that's on the slide and that we previously already shared in the chat. There you can see, and when you go over to that site, please make sure to, thanks Indranil, you also posted it as well. Please, when you go over to the site, make sure to mute the video, otherwise you'll hear me speak twice, which might get very schizophrenic. And yeah, you'll see there a question next to the box of the video. So if you can go in there, then you can answer the question. And I'll give you a little bit of time to do that while I take over sharing. All right, so I hope everybody has gone in there, and wait, let me actually I had it open here before. Okay, so the question that was posted onto the site is, what is your Mentimeter skill level? Do you actually already know what it is? And luckily we can see that, okay, about half of you is a beginner, but I have not yet heard about it. Okay, so actually for most of you. All right, that's good to know. So during this session, we won't have enough time to go deeply into Mentimeter, but given the fact that 60% of you have not yet used it before or haven't even heard about it, I can send you, maybe for later this week or next week, I'll send you an invite to go deeper into Mentimeter if you have an interest into that. Basically, what Mentimeter is it's a tool where you can ask people different questions. So as you can see, here we have just a multiple choice question, but you also have the option to ask for word clouds, the open-ended questions. You can ask people like where they rate on a certain ranking on a like a slider question, if they agree with a statement or disagree, or what levels in there. So let's go back to the presentation. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to click the. All right, so there are different virtual events options. So as I said before, within Zoom itself, you have the polling, the raise hands, non-verbal feedback buttons, and breakout rooms. Same goes for Zoom, only webinars, but they also have the Q&A option. And yeah, as said before already, like the YouTube comments, it strips the Zoom from the possibility, so you only have the YouTube option for chatting. What you may have already noticed, as we've asked you to go to check out the YouTube page or check out the Syngenta landing page, is that there is a delay. So if you're listening to me now on the YouTube on the Syngenta landing page, you would hear me maybe still talk about Mentimeter, whereas we've already moved on from that. And that is because, like similar to how any TV broadcasting would be, there always is a slight delay in from the moment that I'm speaking it, that it gets transmitted through the internet to the moment that it gets broadcasted on YouTube. So even if it's live, there might be like a 1 minute or 2 minute delay in that. So if you're going to use Mentimeter on your Syngenta landing page, it always works best to first tell people, like post a question, give people the option to answer it, talk about something else for a minute or two, and then go onto your slides where where you can actually see like, oh, actually by now I can see that 19 people of you have answered this question, and you can discuss the answers. Oh. All right, let's go on. So same for in Mentimeter, there's also like a Q&A function. It's called Ask Me Anything, where people can answer open-ended question. And depending on if you also want, you can ask people to upvote existing questions. So one of the questions that we've already put in there is like, what's for dinner? And I can see that one of you has actually liked this question. And once I've answered this question, saying that tonight, actually, I'll go out for sushi, then I can mark it as answered, and it will go to the next question, and so forth. So how's the weather? Not so great at the moment in Zurich. So yeah, how can I get Clement's virtual background? Excellent question. I'm sure you can answer that in the Q&A later. All right, so yeah, so if you want to know more about Mentimeter, I'll promise you I'll send you an invite to a Mentimeter deep dive session where I can show you more about how to use that and how that works. But yeah, we also have on the virtual events site, we have an interactivity page where you can read more also about the different Zoom options, breakout rooms, anything like that, or just contact me for any other questions. So with that, I would like to hand it over to Indranil to talk about analytics.
Right. So basically, thanks, Auke. So once we ended up on that landing page, you might have seen that apart from Mentimeter, there was also a place where there is a order form, right? Where you can put in your request for basically getting details from the participants of your webinar. So this is like a sample order form. And let's say during the webinar, if you put in certain kind of information into this form, which is a Marketing Cloud form, all of this would land up as leads within your Salesforce.com platform. So even if you don't have Salesforce.com for your country, this feature, you can use it. So you can contact this team. There's a DL given. We will share the slides as well, which can help you in your own regions to set it up in this way. This basically means that we are tracking each and every lead in a structured way and basically trying to communicate with them at the end of the webinar by either leading them onto the nearest, let's say, retailer, if it is like a demand generation kind of activity, or sending them some brochures, if it is like a kind of, new product introduction, etc. Similarly, the lead status can be put as closed won or lost, etc., depending on how you end up actually communicating with the lead. So all of this information that is there can then be put into a kind of ClickSense dashboards. So ClickSense is our reporting tool to get some critical KPIs out of running every webinar. So as Gavin had mentioned at the beginning of the planning of the webinar, you should have some clear-cut KPIs defined, right? What do you want to achieve? So these KPIs can be how many people actually signed up for the webinar versus how many people actually attended the webinar. As a part of the webinar, if you have some targets that I need this much of demand generation to be achieved, did you achieve that or not? And all of this data, because it's being captured into our tools like salesforce.com, etc., it can be reported out in terms of analytics, right? So these are like sample analytics where we have put in that the number of registration versus the number of page views, etc., as well as the order quantity that came out of that form. We can visualize it in this way. Going on to the next slide very quickly. So these are all other different set of KPIs which we can track. Some examples are given, like what is the best days to put a webinar invite out. We usually see it as Tuesdays or Wednesdays. So you can also track these kind of KPIs just to get a bit of understanding of what kind of KPIs are there, which you can actually request the IT teams to help you set it up. So with that, I'll pass it on to the entire forum to actually go into the Q&A session. So next slide, and obviously you can contact me for any kind of analytics requirements.
Okay, that was a weird noise. Everybody hear me okay? Hi, yeah, this is the Q&A session. After taking you through all of the stages, people were very active in the chat. If you had any questions that you were keeping to yourself and you weren't sharing in the chat, I please encourage you to ask them now. And we'll just go through them rather quickly because we have 13 minutes. There were a lot of questions about, and this is completely on me, about being able to share this video after this presentation. Yes, we will certainly send out a link to it. But further, we've built out a virtual events SharePoint, which we'll share the link with everyone. It's basically a catch-all in-depth dive into all of the subjects that we've been covering today, with links to all of us as well. Great resources from a technical perspective, a lot more granular look at the marketing automation journey. And we're also adding to it all the time. Each one of us has taken on a responsibility of doing in-depth videos at this length, going into each one of our segments as well, which will be going online shortly. And I'm just going to go through these questions as they came up. Do we have a Drupal support team in Malaysia? If Syngenta Malaysia would like to create a Syngenta website, please advise on the way forward.
I'll take that up. So Tommy, like as you discussed, so you can always reach out to me and we'll initiate the process. So we have our product owner, Catherine. So we'll have a word with her and schedule a call with you to see what all things are required. And accordingly, we can plan to have a Malaysia website. To add to that is support for the Malaysia specific country that's not there. Right now, the team sits in Pune and the team handles everything globally, irrespective of whether that's US or Japan. So it's handled from India. So we'll talk about it later, like after this, we'll have a word about this.
Nitesh, I'm on the call. This is Catherine Vess. I've already sent privately the same answer to Tommy, and I've also emailed saying that he should book a slot with us.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tommy also is asking for a little bit more detail in how to make this form for using Salesforce.com as a lead capture.
Yeah, so that will come to me. I think basically because Malaysia already uses Salesforce.com. So if you want something of this kind of a form, which you can then publicize on a webinar, Tommy will get in touch with Najia. Maybe you can put in the requirements to her and we can basically design this form. So even if the website is not ready, you can at least have like a standalone form while the website becomes ready to capture these leads, and these leads will directly go into Salesforce.com.
But it's not just for Tommy, it's for everyone. The opportunity to have these lead capture forms or order forms right on a landing page on the bottom of a webinar are open to everyone. And it's something that we can build in Marketing Cloud. It's that's linked straight into Salesforce. As I was badgering you guys in my little session about, you have a captive audience here of people who are super interested in whatever you're talking about, and any of these leads that are coming through is gold. And so providing them with like basically an open door to share their information right there on the landing page that they're watching the video on is a fantastic opportunity for you. And you should consider the information you're getting out of the people who are submitting to this form as extremely high importance and high quality leads that you should be sharing with your commercial team. Okay, Mark LaFleur asks, how did you set up the audio/video slide at the beginning? Was it a slide in PowerPoint or was it done directly in Zoom? Did you embed the audio slide at the beginning into a PowerPoint?
Yeah, I can take that one. It was actually, we created a video, which was created in PowerPoint just by using pictures and animations, automatic transitions, saved as a video, and then just embedded into the first slide of our PowerPoint presentation deck.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just going through. Francis is asking specifically more about Mentimeter functionality. Is there Mentimeter similar functionality embedded in Zoom? And do we have any experiences on that?
Yeah, so in Zoom, you can have multiple choice questions. So you have the polling option, either single choice or multiple choice. But if you want to go beyond that, or if you want to have your event streamed onto YouTube or embedded into a landing page, then you won't have those options. So within Zoom itself, there's only the standard polling or open-ended questions which you can ask through the chat. But you do have the option to also embed Mentimeter into a PowerPoint presentation. So you could also use it during a standard Zoom meeting.
Yeah, and one thing I want to reinforce is as soon as you want to live stream into YouTube or another social media or streaming platform, the only thing that's moving from Zoom to that streaming platform is the sound and the video. So don't count on any interactive stuff. And that's why we've presented as an example this Train the Trainer landing page where we embed everything together. So you work around this lack of interactivity because you're live streaming to YouTube.
Okay, does Syngenta have an official account for Mentimeter? Is this a global thing or is this local?
Yeah, yes, no, we don't. Oh, sorry. Go for it,
yes and no. Yeah, it's one of my products as well. So yeah, we have a quite large amount of licenses. I can't remember the exact amount. What is important if you need one of these licenses is the process you follow for that. So there is in Snow in the IT catalog, there is a request for non-standard software. Why I'm telling you to follow that path instead of talking to your local IT guy who always says yes because he's a nice guy, is because then global procurement has a view on volumes globally, and that helps negotiating costs globally. And Mentimeter is one of these tools where it would probably make sense that we have a good deal on the unit cost of a license. So it'd probably take a bit longer to get the license, probably a few more days or something like that, but at least Syngenta can take advantage of volumes.
Okay, great. Well, that's it. That's all the questions that people had on the chat. If anybody wants to raise their hand and ask a question.
I think there's one other question from Tommy. He asked for video embedded into PowerPoint or play directly from the video file. For these two options, which one would be the better option? I think it's pretty even, but I guess like also maybe depends on your own preferences. What I would say, like if it's directly embedded into your PowerPoint presentation, it's maybe a little bit more smoother than having to switch between the two, like you switch from one program to the next. But I think from a play point of view, there shouldn't be any difference, right? Unless Clement or Diego have any other opinion on that.
Sorry, I was on mute. I have the exact same opinion. There's another question from Gabriela, a comparison between Zoom or WebEx from Cisco, and there's many other on the market. So the reason why we've picked Zoom, I think it was last year, is first because it was already used in Syngenta, and we connected with our procurement team, and they said, well, there's a lot of people using Zoom already. How about we do a proper assessment and negotiate the cost for an enterprise agreement? And we got a very, very, very good deal with them because we knew about the volumes. And the other reason is it's more stable, it's more reliable. So maybe now Google and Cisco are reviewing, and Microsoft as well, are reviewing their copy and improve their tools. But Zoom is at the top of the reliability. So maybe it doesn't offer the best video quality, but it's more stable. And that's very important in our business because we work a lot with farmers. And there's another one, Facebook versus YouTube. Yes, any platform that can do live events. So YouTube is available out of the box from Zoom. It's just a few options for you to activate. Facebook is there as well. There's a second flavor of Facebook. I can't remember the name, but there's one dedicated for live events. But it can also do any type of video streaming platform. The standard is RTMP, and that's a well-known standard in the industry.
Okay, there was another question on if you have high memory on videos, the PowerPoint is blocking, so I guess it's coming in jaggy. How should we proceed to have a smooth flow? Okay, spoke to that specifically about just the size of videos for ADP. If she wants to, you and Clement and Aoki want to get into that.
Yeah, it's maybe a bit technical, so I'm going to help Aoki answering. So everything that was on the slide is absolutely true. Reboot, restrain yourself to 480p, and a few other things that Aoki was listing. The other thing that could help is having a powerful and dedicated PC that's going to show the presentation and play the video, because it's all about resources and how they are dedicated to this sharing of this rich content that's very resource intensive. So for sure you can't reach 4K high definition because you also want to maintain reliability. But if at least the sound and the video is fluent, then job done.
Well, that's great. Well, that's all the questions of the chat we have. This is the last minute, so I think we can wrap it up here. I'd like to thank everybody for their attendance and the panelists for all the valuable information we passed on. We'll be sending out links, as I mentioned, and then also link to the virtual events SharePoint that we've all worked on. And we'll actually be sharing a survey. And please invite your feedback. This is actually an important part in the marketing chain as well. But we're just we're really interested to see any and all feedback you had on this presentation. So once again, thank you for your participation, and we'll chat soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.